Hey guys, I don't know about you, but I love a good comeback story. I love a good comeback story. And one that comes to mind is The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. And his son played his actual son. I can't think of his son's name, but anyway, he was homeless for a period of time with his son, but he was so determined to make it. And he did. He did. I just love a good comeback story. But from a biblical perspective, I love the story of Hannah. Now, Hannah, she was married, and her husband, he had another wife, Peninnah. Peninnah could have babies. Hannah couldn't. And every time you looked around, Peninnah was having a baby. And she would kind of taunt Hannah about it, kind of throw it in her face. And of course, it would make her feel some type of way. And she would cry, and her husband would offer her the best of the best. He would give her more than Peninnah, although she was barren. But she was like, no, I want my own baby. I want to have my own baby. And one day she was in the temple, and I believe it was Eli. He was a priest, and he mistaken her for being drunk. She wasn't drunk. She was just in there giving God her all. She was just speaking. And at that point, Eli was like, you're going to have a baby. You're going to have a baby, but you're going to have to give that baby, your firstborn, back to God. And she was like, okay, if that's what it's going to take. But what I like about Hannah is she did not allow her pain to drive her in the opposite direction. Her pain drove her to God. With us, sometimes we will allow our pain to drive us to alcohol. We'll let our pain drive us into being depressed. We'll let our pain drive us to medication, to food, to shopping, as opposed to letting our pain drive us to Christ. As believers, that's what we should be doing, because going to these other things are just temporary. And she allowed that pain to drive her to God. And that's the thing about a good comeback story. What you have to realize is that you typically see people go through pain in order to come back. You go through the valley in order to get to the top, to get to the peak. You have to go through it. But we have to take our pain to God, because only He can turn it around for us. Only He can turn it around for us. And she did. She conceived. She had a baby. And she gave that baby back to God. And he went off and he became one of the a major prophet. Samuel. He became a prophet. But she trusted God to the point that she said, you know what, I'm just going to pour out and give you my all in all, because I want this baby so bad. And not only that, she had other kids after that. So let's talk a little bit about Hannah. So, y'all know I got some key points. You know how I do. You know how I do by now. All right, key points. Faithful prayer amid adversity. Hannah didn't allow her pain to drive her away from God. Instead, she turned toward Him. She prayed with honesty. She was vulnerable, demonstrating unwavering faith even when her circumstances seemed hopeless. She took all that pain and she took it to God. She took it to God. When facing challenges, commit consistent and heartfelt prayers. Be honest with God about your struggles and trust Him to act in a timing way. Start by setting aside a specific time each day to pour out your heart in prayer, just as Hannah did. This is where we have to be really vulnerable. with God. You don't have to tell it to anybody else unless you want to. But God already knows your heart. So just come clean. God, I am feeling some type of way, about this situation. Only you can fix this, God. Mend my heart. Mend my heart. God, I am feeling so painful about how I'm being treated in this situation. And I know I'm doing everything that I can think of to do the right thing. But yet and still, they are coming at me, God. They are handling me. Help me, God. Help me in this situation. Help me on my job. They are misinterpreting what I'm saying, what I'm doing. My manager is riding my back and I don't understand why. God, please help me with this. Help me with my kids, God. Whatever that situation is, you got to learn how to cry out to God. Only He can help you. He can help you, because sometimes people think they're right and they're not going to change. Only God can change them, and you can't change them. Stop trying to change them. Stop it. All you're doing is making yourself more and more and more upset. Leave them alone. Give it to God. You're just making yourself upset. Let it go. Trust in God's timing. We don't like this one because I know I don't. Trust in God's timing. Hannah teaches us to trust God's perfect timing. Though her wait was long and filled with pain, God used her situation to bring Samuel into the world, a man who would change the course of Israel history. Hannah's patience allowed her to witness God's greater plan unfold. It took a while. I don't know how long it's going to take for you to get your answer. I don't know how long it will take for me to get my answer. But we have to make our petitions to God and leave it there. Once we make the petition, we got to trust the process. Once you make the petition, know what you start doing? God, I thank you right now that I know you're fixing it. I don't know how, when, or where, what resources you're going to use, but I give it to you. I know you're going to fix it, God. I know you're going to do it for me, and I thank you. Just start thanking Him in advance. Just thanking Him in advance. Surrendering to God's will. Hannah just didn't pray for a child. She also made a vow to dedicate the child to God's service. The act of surrender showed her trust in God's plan, even beyond her own desires. By giving Samuel back to God, she demonstrated her faith was not a transactional, but rooted in devotion and gratitude. What's your motive? What's my motive? Am I asking for this thing because I want to put myself on a pedestal? Why am I asking for this? Am I asking for this for God to get the glory? Hannah was saying, no, this is not some kind of transaction here. I'm going to give my baby back to God because He's given me, He blessed my womb so I can conceive this baby. I'm not asking for this baby to go back and go in Peninnah's face and say, I got me a baby now. Now what? No, that wasn't her motive. Her heart was pure. It was because she wanted this baby, and it wasn't to showboat or anything like that. What's your motive? What's your motive? Again, this is just a beautiful comeback story. I can have a comeback story. You can have a comeback story. I have several comeback stories, and I know you probably do as well. Where you didn't see any way out, and God still made a way. Just like He did it once, He can do it again. Same God. Same God. If He did it before, He can do it again. He can do it again. You just got to go back through the same process. You remember what that process was like. You remember when you were down and out. You remember when you didn't know how you were going to make it. You remember when you were homeless. You remember when you didn't have a job. You remember when you were asking God to promote you. You remember you were asking God to bless your marriage, bless your kids. You remember those times, and now you're back in another rough spot, and you need that same miracle again. What did you do before? You got to go back to the basics. We gotta stay on our knees. We gotta stay on our knees. We gotta take our petitions to God. Only He can fix it for us. We can't fix it for ourselves. Hands off. Hands off. Throw your hands up. Surrender to God. Throw your hands up. You can't fix it. You can't fix it. Don't let it worry you. Don't let it trouble you. Give it to Him. Give it to Him and get a good night's sleep. Go to bed. No need of staying up all night worrying. No, that's just going to age you. No, we're not going to do that. God is the author of our faith, the author and the finisher of our faith. God just is. He is just is. God is. He is our all in all. And we need to start acting like it. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave them there. Until next time, continue to grow and glow in the Lord.